grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear a pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny, sunny, sunny side of the street. Hi, welcome to another Sunny Side of the Street. I'm your host, Todd Gross, a clinical psychologist in Newton. And our show, as you know, really tries to look at a different side of humanity that doesn't often get much play in the media, which is all the people that are out there really making a difference on a day-to-day basis, helping other people, supporting people, inspiring people, making a difference in a very positive way, and reflecting how much good there is in human beings. So one of the sides of the sunny side of the street, I think, is when you run across a person that has a lot of talents and can do a lot of different kind of things that impact people of different ages in different settings. And we're very lucky today to have somebody with us who has done a lot of that kind of work and made a big difference already in her life. She is, her name is Aditi Subramanian. Hi, Aditi, how are you?
Hi, Todd. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to give the audience just a little sense of some of the experience of Aditi by way of introduction. She has a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in clinical psychology, a postgraduate diploma in the management of learning disabilities, a master's in clinical mental health counseling and dance movement therapy training at Lesley University. She's a registered dance therapist, and she's completing postgraduate fellowship in infant parent mental health at UMass Boston. She's currently a mental health clinician and dance movement therapist in the early intervention program at Boston Children's Hospital, and a supervisor, and she works on an interdisciplinary team in a group and home settings to encourage developmental growth. She's worked with children with social and emotional and developmental challenges, elderly persons in schools and community settings. Her major interests are in the connection between well-being and dance, attachment theory and neuroplasticity, mind-body relationships, and support of families. Now that's a mouthful. Aditi, that is amazing that you do all that. And so I wanted people to have a context for some of the work you did. Although we're going to focus today for our audience on a camp called Camp Erin, which is part of the Moyer Foundation, I wanted people to realize that there's a breadth of activities that Aditi's involved in. So maybe what I might do as a way of starting is to ask you a little bit of the path, what you've done that led you to Camp Erin too.
Sure. At Camp Erin, so my supervisor from my second year at my master's, Jennifer Wiles, who's a dance therapist and is also a licensed mental health counselor. And I used to intern with her working with the elderly. She is now working at the Parmenter Foundation, which is in Wayland. And she contacted me saying they had this bereavement camp for children between the ages of 6 and 17. It's a voluntary camp, and they wanted volunteers. To me, it was exactly what you said, was a breath of fresh air in understanding for supporting children in the grief process and making them feel like that they're not alone in the process, that they can do fun activities and still have each other through this entire process of grieving.
That's beautiful.
And I think, so I looked into it more. I reached out to Jennifer and I said I would love to volunteer, not knowing what my role would be. I just said I'd be a volunteer. And the camp, basically, to give a little background of what the camp looks like, was, so it's a part of the Moyer Foundation, and in Boston, it's run with the Parmenter Health, so they do hospice groups, and Jennifer works there doing the hospice groups and the grief camp for children. So they combined it together, and Camp Erin has been happening all around the country, and this was the one in Boston.
Where's it located in Boston?
So the camp this time was in Camp Bowercrest, and so they had the camp in Bowercrest. It's a Jewish camp for boys, but this time it was a co-ed camp for children.
Oh, it was co-ed too.
Yes, it was co-ed for kids between the ages of 6 to 17 who've experienced loss of somebody who's really close to them. So for me, it felt like a space I wanted to be a part of and support and just learn from, I think, the children and hold a space with them. I think the other big piece that drew me to Camp Erin was trying to see if I have, my background in psychology, if there was and expressive therapies, I think, which was the biggest piece.
Yes.
Would there be a way that I could actually integrate the expressive therapies in a grief camp?
Right.
And I think having a supervisor like Jennifer was really nice because she, I think, understood the language, and she reached out saying, we could actually do dance therapy groups there.
Wonderful. So you were able to integrate it.
Yes. I, in fact, so I volunteered as a grief counselor for a couple of cabins for the girls. And the younger kids. So I was supporting kids from between the ages of 6 and 10.
How many kids were there? Any idea roughly?
I think there were about 80 to 100.
Wow.
I think.
Okay. And it's a weekend?
It's a weekend. It was a weekend in August.
Okay.
And I really saw it like a relationship building tool for the children. I think our role there as volunteers was to support children in building relationships with each other, because we're in there holding their space. Every child there has a cabin buddy, and has every camper is linked to a buddy. So there's no child who is wandering off on their own. So they have a person who's a volunteer as a buddy with them. Every cabin has a cabin buddy. And then a few cabins are assigned a grief counselor. So there were a few of us who were grief counselors on camp. And it was completely transdisciplinary. Everybody, I think the intentionality was, I want to be here in supporting children, and I want to. So
that's the common thread.
That was the common thread, and I think there were people from different walks of life, people with maybe mental health backgrounds, some people with social workers.
I see.
Some just really loving people. I don't think it mattered whether you needed a degree to be a volunteer.
How did they find the people? Any sense?
So they were, I do know when Jennifer reached out, I think there have been people who have been in touch with Jennifer through Parmentor.
Yes.
And they had been a part of it, and then word of mouth. It was interesting because when I did it, I actually brought it back to my workplace, and there were so many of my colleagues who would be so interested in being a volunteer next year. So we have more resources to be able to volunteer.
I'm betting that there's people watching today that may actually be interested. So we may get, as we develop this today, we may talk about how they could get in touch with you too. But what a wonderful piece of work, and what an amazing concept, really. Yes. I was thinking when you were talking about the buddies, that one of the benefits of a camp like this would be that the kids see that there are other kids also going through the same kind of grieving. They're not alone.
And I think if you actually look at the website, which is camperinboston.org, there is a little excerpt about this year's camp, and there are some quotes from the children, and one of them is exactly what you said.
Really?
I learned that I'm not alone in this, and I'm a strong person. So some of the activities that we did, and I'm maybe paraphrasing Jennifer, but I loved how when she introduced camp to all of us in our training modules, she said they're kids, they're just regular kids with exceptional circumstances.
Yes.
And I think it just puts such perspective to they're kids who want to have fun, and how do we, allow for that and also hold their entire space of grief that's happening. So to me, that was really humbling to be a part of.
Yes.
And so at camp we had a lot of grief-based activities which were threaded in. There were a lot of fun activities.
Like a regular camp.
Like a regular camp. Like they had cabin time. We did winding down time. But I think there was an intentionality behind every activity. So the intentionality of them feeling supported, them feeling that they had a voice, that they had a space to share, that they could be kids. And they feel, and I think it's not just for the kids. I know I wasn't a part of it, but I know, the people who organized it, like Jennifer and her team actually reached out to the parents. So there was a space where
nice too.
Parents got
so they
feedback.
Got feedback.
And a lot of the kids are kids who've been have been a part of groups for grief, but this was a space where they could meet other kids in a regular setup for camp.
And have fun at the same time.
Have fun, exactly. It was a very touching experience for me. I can definitely talk about one of the ceremonies that was very moving. I mean, it moved us all to tears.
I'd love to hear.
So it was called the Luminary Ceremony, and
Luminary
Ceremony. And I think so. What we had done is Camp Erin was in August over the weekend, but there was a build up towards it. So we had introductions with the kids. We met the kids 2 months before for an ice cream social, so that they knew who we were. Just felt comfortable, the parents felt comfortable with who our cabin buddies would be, who the buddy system would be, who the grief counselors would be. And then a little before that, we had trainings in understanding, meeting the other volunteers, understanding what grief looks like across different age groups, knowing, what boundaries are. It's very important for us to know boundaries.
Yes.
So it was very thorough. I think for me it was very, very thorough.
I was going to ask you if you even could elaborate a little bit on the training that you got for people who might be considering this too.
Sure. So I think the process was you go onto the website and you send in your application.
Okay.
And then they review your application, and they'll get back to you whether you're going to be a volunteer. And then there's trainings for 2 days in a row, or they'd interspersed it based on giving people options for trainings.
Volunteers and clinicians trained in the same?
Sure, yeah.
Right?
But we're all volunteers, even though we're clinicians,
yes,
we're all
I
volunteering in it. And then once you go, so you put in your preference. Do you want to be a buddy? Do you want to be a cabin buddy? Would you like to be a grief counselor? And then they try to see if you're a match in that role. And if not, they'll move you around into another role. But everybody here is a volunteer, so you're not doing actual therapy sitting there.
Yes.
You're integrating fun camp activities with an intentionality of supporting grief. So I think when the trainings happened, we actually went through one, understanding what Camp Erin was about and how it started, and the symbolism of Camp Erin, and then how this was happening in Boston for the first time. And
yes.
So
this summer was the first time in Boston.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So, which is great. I think it's going to happen every year from now.
Yes, a great tradition.
Yes, and then after that, we had trainings on understanding, like I said, the grief process, understanding what our roles as buddies are, what our roles as volunteers are, what our boundaries are. What happens in times of crisis. So we had role play within that. We had to understand, how do we brainstorm together if there were crisis. How do we support the children in feeling connected? If children needed to speak to their parents because they're not on camp, how do we access the phones to be able to get them to speak to parents? So it was very, very thorough in understanding just situations.
Sure.
At the same time, there was always space for questions if there was flexibility.
It sounds like too that they were able to get across in the training what the underlying philosophy of the camp is, as you're talking about it.
Yes. And I think so drawing from that, the idea of like supporting children to feel like they're not alone and they're strong, and what makes them feel grounded in times of such hardship.
Sure.
So going back to the luminary ceremony, I think for me, which was really moving. So each of the children had a candle that was given with a glass votive, and they painted it and wrote special things about their special loved one. And there was a volunteer, Nick, who actually strung in memories of each child with their special loved one into a song, and that was performed by a choir there. And we walked down to the water. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm sharing this.
I know, this is so moving, but beautiful.
We walked down by the water, and there was a raft made by veterans volunteering, and they made a raft.
Really?
And the children went one by one as the song was being sung. Their little candles were lit. Like remembrance candles were lit. They were placed on the raft, and the raft was taken into the lake all around and brought back, and really holding that space of what seems first hard in grief has a path of moving. It may seem really, really hard, and there's a way of moving and then coming back to you in a way of a goodbye can become a hello. Which was, it was really nice to just sit and honor these children and the people they love and the memories.
Oh, I love that. That must have been so much to everybody involved.
Oh my God, totally. We were all moved to tears. And then we, after that, went and we had a big dance party. So
yeah, I wanted to hear about too how you got dance integrated into this show.
Sure. So, I mean, I was really grateful to be able to do 2 groups with the children. It was open. We had like certain groups of kids who wanted to volunteer for some of these groups. So we did a drum circle with different animals, which was really fun, and it was so organic because you don't plan these things completely.
No.
You see the kids who come to you, and you do it together based on what they bring to you.
You go with what they come up with.
And then we did another completely movement therapy circle for kids, just supporting the regulation, supporting feeling together in a group, feeling connected with each other. So we had parachutes, and it was in this gorgeous camp outdoors with the sun.
Nice.
There was, I know there was stargazing. There was another volunteer who's a teacher, and I learned a lot, like just about astronomy with him.
What's up there? Yes.
But it was a very special experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Tell me a little bit about fundraising too. How do they get the money to do the camp?
So I think from what I know, so I wasn't a part of the organizers,
right.
But I think from what I've learned is that the Moyer Foundation is supporting the camp. So there's no fee for the families. It's completely free camp for them. So I think that's where the fundraising
that's
happens.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's such
Takes
a nice
away
option.
another burden at a time of grief.
And the link is really to support kids and the families in knowing, you do this, and then kids who need more support, what are other community resources once they're done with camp? How can we continue to build that thread for the family and the child? So.
One of the things that impresses me that you're talking about too, I mean, you're dealing with so many aspects of what the grief process is like through this brief but powerful experience.
I agree.
And for the viewers, I'd like to say too that there's a context that this Moyer Foundation has done wonderful things. Jamie Moyer was a pitcher on the Seattle Mariners, and a wonderful pitcher, and also obviously he and his wife, wonderful human beings. They've done an awful lot. From just looking on your website, I saw that they've done helping children who lost people in 9/11, victims of the tsunami. Whenever there's a major problem that affects people where there's loss, it seems like the Moyer Foundation has been there, raised funds, and done stuff. So I'm glad that there's this fundraising for the camp. And their goal was, I think, something like 50 camps nationally or something. How are they doing? Do you have any idea?
I actually personally don't know, but I do know they have camps in different parts of, I know they had something in
Seattle?
the West Coast,
Yes.
And those have been happening for a while, and which is, their hope was, from being a volunteer and understanding the story when I heard it, the hope for collaboration with Parmenter in Boston and with the Moyer Foundation was that they wanted to have a camp in every, like, baseball city.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So I know I'm just learning, and I'm really hoping that I can volunteer again next year. So
I imagine, do you think, Aditi, that when the training that you just described, that came partly from all the experience they've had in the other camps too? Are there people that know about?
Yes, definitely. I think it's collaborative effort from people who have been running the camps, and also people in the field of grief work, of family work, supporting children. So I think like when we received the training, it was a completely holistic approach.
Yes.
But I'm certain there was a lot of work behind it, and it was really
Sure.
collaborative. And they had a lot of experiences that they pulled from the other camps.
One of the things that I think that you're in a special position to comment on, because of having been there at the camp, is what ways did you see some of the effects on children? I know sometimes facial expressions tell a lot, brief conversations, interactions between kids. I mean, what are some of the things that you would like people who are interested in hearing more about the camp, maybe being involved, to know about what you actually experience watching this situation?
Sure.
To tell you you're having impact.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing was for me that the kids were being kids. And
good point.
That was really special to me. I think, knowing, going back to what Jennifer said, they're regular kids with exceptional circumstances. And I think for them, so there were shifts. And the idea of like when they first met each other in camp, they were closer to the buddies. They wanted to build a relationship with the adults.
Yes.
And our intention was that they build a relationship with each other.
Yes.
As peers. And you could see that movement on just over the days, and by the end of the evening on the second day, the afternoon on Sunday. So our little cabin, we did activities that would bring them together, and the kids brought this, they completely organically, they decided it. So we had like a cheering song that they worked on together. And initially, though we had cajoled them to start doing it, it ended up being completely theirs, which to me is such a shift in, they took ownership on it, they were proud about it. There was the sense of like, let's show it to everybody else.
We did this together from our work together.
Yes, and our cabin's the best. So there was a centerpiece of,
the pride
in it. And also the space of, in times of really, really the grief-based activities, which were heavy, very moving, very special. They sat with each other, like they not necessarily sharing anything, but just knowing that the person next to me has been. Yes, I think being
and
present.
I'm sure children were crying at different points or upset or in touch with the sadness.
Like I said, it was moving for us. I mean, the luminary ceremony brought all of us to tears. It was just so special. And I think learning a lot from the kids there on how they're very strong kids, very strong, and knowing that it's okay for them to be, to mourn and to feel loss.
To me, that's a very important part of what you're saying. That you, besides the fun and the bonding, you're just giving them a permission to feel whatever they feel and to express it whatever way they do. There's no rights or wrongs.
No, and that was exactly it. That there was, every child had their own individual process in this. There were kids who, shared narratives about loss and what that loss was for them in a way that I felt, sharing with a cabin buddy who was saying, wow, kids don't usually have a filter when they talk about loss. And I said, isn't it so nice that they're able to completely ask another peer what, in their developmental realm, and what feels okay for them, tell me what happened.
Yes.
And I think as adults, how we try to definitely, I think, shelter them from it for good reason, but at the same time, owning how authentic the kids are was such a nice learning, and not necessarily trying to fix it for them, which was a big supporting for me.
That's a good point too. Yes.
The intention is not to fix it for them, but it's almost like holding that space for them and letting them have that process. And kids who needed more support, that like Jennifer has groups, Heart Play at Parmenter, which is a group for kids with the grieving process. And there are other resources, which I think they do a follow-up with the families on the day when the families come to pick up the kids. And like any fun camp, there was a starting big circle and the ending big circle of what coming together means and being with each other means, and it was really beautiful.
It must have been one of the things, especially for a weekend that's that intense. I'm curious what it's like as people are getting ready to leave, because they've invested and experienced so much. It's almost, there must be a part of them that doesn't want to go.
Yes, I had a lot of kids, we heard them, at least in camp, say, I want to come back next year. And I think, like, I was saying, the beautiful thing that it doesn't end there. So in October right now, actually, they're organizing for all the volunteers and the campers to meet at a get-together, like a reunion.
Yes.
So
that's that follow-up. I'm really glad you mentioned that. So you're left with something really big in your heart, and to be able to come back and reconnect adds a real special dimension.
Yes, and I think that intentionality of I'm coming and following up to meet these people.
Yes.
But I think the symbolism of what's held is most important. So that process of I'm strong and I have supports to be able to go through this. I don't have to do this alone, was the intention.
Question for you too, because this is so moving and I think such important work. How did it affect you to do this? I mean, it sounds so big, in so many ways. Short period, but big impact.
Extremely moving. Like I said, very, very honored to be a part of something so noble.
Yes.
In I think creating a holding space for kids, for people. I mean, we all go through grief, and I think that idea of valuing that grief process even in oneself. So you do look inward to be able to look outward. And I think that was something. I mean, I'm talking about it still, and I want to be there next year as a volunteer. So it just fit in line. I know friends of mine who'd said, I told myself I wanted to volunteer in something this year, and when this came up, I said I would love to do this. And friends had said, oh, you want to do camp? And I've never done camp in India. We never do camp.
No.
So this was my first camping experience where I stayed overnight.
Yes.
And it was a heavy camp, but it was also extremely moving for me.
Do you have any advice for people who are watching that might want to be volunteers and try to figure out, could I do this or not? Because you had the courage to do it. They might think, well, I have to have a lot of training or I couldn't do this,
No, and when we were talking earlier, people from different walks and experiences of life. I mean, I I was relatively much younger than a lot of people who volunteered there, who had a wealth of life experience.
Yes.
I really, I think I wouldn't say advice, but I think my go-to for my heart is always, if you really, your intentionality is to try to do this, I mean,
Support
apply.
children.
Yeah, and apply, and you're not doing this without any support. There are trainings, there are people who
That's
are,
a good point.
who are running the camp, who will support you with it. And at the same time, they'll also let you know if they feel like you're not a good match. So I think it comes from a space of the intention is really, really good. So I would say apply. I mean,
and I'm thinking that, especially with more years of experience, unfortunately, there's lots of experience with loss that people accumulate. Yeah. So when they're helping children, they may be helping themselves too in many ways. And I was also thinking that it operates at the children's level, that they help each other.
Yes.
And they're not just there to receive, they also give.
Oh my God, so much.
Did you see a lot of that?
So much. So much.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, they wanted us to be a part of their activities, like, painting nails, doing stickers, making music, doing this cheer, which was a huge piece. And I think I came back and I'm singing it the whole time. So.
Are you considering doing this again?
Yes, definitely.
That's good.
I hope if I'm here in Boston, and I will definitely apply next year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And what would you say are the toughest challenges about doing this, for people to know that too?
Sure. I think being aware of our own processes, like we're here to support.
Good point. Yeah, you have to know your own feelings.
At the same time, I mean, we will get triggered because, again, like we all have had grief.
That's right.
But at the same time, knowing that this space is, we are receiving from the children, but this space is for the children.
That's the priority.
And that's the priority here.
Take care of yourself, but make sure that you keep the focus where it needs to be.
Yes, and,
it's a boundary.
Exactly, knowing our boundaries, and I think understanding that, recognizing that I may need support, but at the same time, that may not be the actual space. I mean, I did speak to certain captain buddies or buddies where we said, oh, this has brought up things for me. Yeah. And, I was sharing, and she had shared with her about a certain piece of loss and held that space for her. At the same time, we were able to redirect it towards, so not ignoring it, like holding that space, but also centering it on the children here, because that's the intentionality of camp. But knowing that if I need that support after camp is done, I can always receive that support from other people around me.
That's very good. Well, it's really well thought out, and it's an amazing program. I just want to thank you so much for talking about that, and for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming today, too.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
A pleasure. And I want to thank the audience for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again for another On the Sunny Side of the Street. Take care, everybody, and see you real soon. Bye-bye. We can talk. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear a pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step.